Greetings and welcome. I'm Christopher Avery, and you are on the Leadership Gift Program Sneak Preview, how to skyrocket performance / execution times and break through any problem. Um, People on the call today are most likely going to be from the Americas or from Europe or from South Africa. We have a very large contingent of members, of course, from continental United States and Canada. We also have a few in South America, especially tech centers, and Mexico. We've got a very large contingent from Scandinavia and Europe, the UK, Scotland, France, Spain, Italy, and we have a few members from South Africa. Now, this makes sense because um, we are time optimized to reach our community web calls from 9 a.m. in California to about 6 or 7 p.m. In Northern Europe and parts of Europe. So we don't yet have worldwide coverage, although we're working on it. We do have a few members, very hardy members, who participate from Australia and Asia, even though for them to attend our calls live, it's the middle of the night. And we also have a hardy member in Hawaii that will get up at 6 o'clock in the morning to be in our calls. As we grow, we will be expanding our ability to optimize for your time zone wherever you are. Now, I'd love to find out where you are today joining us. And so I've got a poll to launch here. Let me know where you are today. It's a race between the Americas and Europe. We've got 84, 88% voted, so I will close the poll and share the results. And we have 57% from the Americas, 39% from Greater Europe, and 4% of us from Australasia. Welcome. I'm so glad that you are here. So, what are we going to do today in this hour? So whether you're a CEO, a team leader, a coach, an individual contributor looking to increase your effectiveness, not by a little bit, but by a whole bunch. I tend to work for people that are looking for transformative change, not just 5 or 10% improvement. Then you're in the right place. Today we're going to talk about why problems persist, projects stall, collaborations fail, and how to end the total frustration blues going forward. I've spent my career perfecting how to first myself master the only proven approach for taking and teaching responsibility, and then figure out how to help others do that. Just realized that I could be sharing my webcam with you, and I'm not. So let me do that. Well, I've got this chance here. So I think it's nice if you can see me. There I am. Hi. So I've spent 24 years since first being introduced to this information, learning how to first achieve mastery myself, and then how to help other people do it faster, easier, and better. And the payoffs are huge in terms of specific benefits that ambitious professionals like you and me are looking for in our world. We are looking for higher performance and more clarity of mind, and to be more resourceful in any situation. We want life full of engagement. We want to have great relationships. We want to be fulfilled and happy, not just as individual contributors, but as leaders as well. So today, the way we're going to spend our hour together is, I feel it's important to give you a little bit of background so you understand my context, my story. I'm going to give you a thorough introduction to the Leadership Gift Program, and I'm going to point you to information where you can read in depth more about it. I'm going to tell you how to get involved. And yes, we'll hear from some members who have joined us today to answer your questions or just to hang out with you. And yes, we will have time, I hope, for your questions. And so jot them down and put them in the chat, and maybe one of the members who are here will answer them. And if not, I'll take them later. If we have time to answer them here, I will. If we don't have time to answer them here, I will put them in a Q&A write-up and get them to you. So I'd like you to do an experiment with me for just an hour. If you are a multitasker, I'd like you to stop. My number one question or number one goal for you in this hour is for you to do the single most important thing there is in front of you to do. If it's not to check out this webinar, then I would prefer you go and do whatever it is that's more pressing on your mind and come back and watch the video replay of this later. The quotes here on multitasking are really humorous to me, but they're true. If you've not seen any of the research on multitasking and how ineffective it makes us, I suggest that you give a look into it. If there are webinar issues, the best thing for you to do is to check with gotomeeting.com. If we lose internet here in our office, well, we'll figure out how to set this up and do it another time. If you need to get a hold of us, you can try admin@christopheravery.com or either of our Twitter addresses here. Just realize my Twitter name does not have a Y on the end. There's not enough characters in Twitter to have Avery. So my story is that I graduated from college. I got a good job. I started worked my way into management at a very young age. And I looked to the 35-year horizon, and my only role model for working for a living was my father. My father was a quality control executive in New York City working for Union Carbide, who tried to bring Edwards Deming into Union Carbide in the 40s. And Union Carbide would have nothing to do with it. And my dad then spent his career inspecting quality out instead of building it in. Amazing stories about his company shipping truckloads full of steel wire that he knew was no good, but it's because he couldn't stop it because a plant manager said, ship it. We know about these problems today with competing goals between managers and others in organizations, and what a travesty it is. You may not know, but in the mid-80s, a horrible accident happened in Bhopal, India, caused by a Union Carbide gas plant there that killed thousands of people. My dad had been retired since 1976, but he felt personally responsible. He felt guilty for his employer of 30-some years having caused that accident because he failed to influence the standards, the quality standards, the approach to work and people and quality in that organization. By the way, Union Carbide has never recovered. It was bought by Dow and the brand buried, and Dow is still dealing with the after effects of this horrible reputation of Union Carbide. So I looked at this 35-year horizon at work, and I recalled that my dad came home tired and sore and frustrated and upset every night. Even though outwardly he had all the success in the world. He was an executive in a large corporation working in Manhattan. I was born in New Jersey. But I thought, wow, do I want to, have a career where I work 35 years for a paycheck and a gold watch and come home tired and sore and frustrated and pissed off every day from work? I bet you know some people who are like that. So I left my good job and I went back to graduate school, and I spent some of the 80s earning a doctorate in organization science and leadership. When I came out of school, I did my dissertation at the First Technology Consortium in Austin, MCC, the Microelectronics and Computer Technology Corporation. And what was impressed upon me is that technology commercialization, innovation, works when all of the different roles, managers and marketers, scientists and engineers, when they share responsibility for a higher goal. And this is a lesson that you and I seem to need to learn every week, every month, every year, over and over and over again, because we design businesses that drive this out of them. My first opportunity out of my doctoral program was I founded a consulting firm that I still run today, PartnerWorks, and IBM asked us to design a workshop for software project leaders who had no authority over the people that they led to build software, and that was a runaway hit. Workshop, and we soon were in every IBM lab in the country. Soon after that, I was asked by the semiconductor industry to help them improve partnering relationships at the boundaries between customers and suppliers in order to shore up the semiconductor industry in the United States. So I worked for these 12, 14 bloodthirsty competitors like Intel and AMD and IBM as a consortium, helping them figure out how to collaborate on technology transfer and pre-competitive research in order to rapidly improve the industry. And I worked at the boundaries between customers and suppliers, helping them build trusting relationships. So that decade showed me something critical that no one else seemed to see and was talking about at the time. Today they are. But what it is that I saw is that you are responsible, whether you like it or not, whether you think you are or not, you are the only one who can be responsible for the quality of your experience at work and in teams. Essentially what I learned is if I'm on a team and I have a problem, then it's my problem to own and do something about. I can complain and point all I want, but if I'm the one that sees it's a problem, I'm the one that gets to do something about it if I want to be happier and healthier. This led me to write the book Teamwork is an Individual Skill, which has been a classic and selling strongly since 2001. And Fortune magazine called it the only book on teamwork that you need to read. So, hi, I'm Christopher Avery. I spend my entire career and more helping individuals, teams, and corporations master the responsibility process, which is the core of the leadership gift. I spend a lot of time speaking and teaching around the world. We provide a tremendous amount of free information at christopheravery.com. And then we have a variety of offerings for people, whether they're individuals, business owners, or mega corporations. So you may be looking for solutions to lots of the kinds of problems that I talked about seeing for my dad at work. Tons of resistance, defensiveness. The number one complaint that I hear in corporations today is people say it's insane around here, and they come every day and say it's insane around here. And so the cumulative results of all of these problems means people getting stuck. And if there's, sort of one recognition to the people that I work with practicing responsibility, we talk about how we used to stay stuck in our upsets and our problems and our frustrations forever. And now what mastery of the responsibility process does in the Leadership Gift Program is it helps us get unstuck like that. We have far greater awareness. Our motivation for having what we want increases. We're able to face stuff. And when we do that, it increases our ownership of our life. It's more fun to live. We're in charge of our own sanity. We get into momentum and are able to make it happen. It's really cool. Talk about leadership. Who would you want to follow? Right? Someone like that with those qualities? I would hope so. Tons of amazing testimonials. Here, 9 months after joining the Leadership Gift Program, I called Judith Mills one day, and I just want to check in. What's going on? How's the Leadership Gift Program working for you? And she said this to me. She said, over the last year, 350 people in 9 countries have become way more productive. Down to the bottom of this, today we produce twice the software with half the headcount. That's a 4-fold increase in productivity in a year's time, if I'm counting right. And I checked that with her, and she said, yeah. So here's a large corporate example. An IT organization of 800 people was getting lots of pressure from the other VPs of the organization to offshore it, to break it up, to send it out. The CIO had an enterprise strategy in mind that needed a good IT organization there. She asked me to work with the top 5%. So 40 people I worked with over a couple of years to start practicing responsibility and get it into the culture. And there's dramatic results. We have some amazing qualitative and quantitative results from that, and other corporate turnarounds very much like that. Here's a very small company example, a tiny company that was really on the skids. The owner hired a new CEO to come in and turn around. That CEO met me through some community stuff here. You see this says Kerrville, Texas. I live in Comfort, Texas, 20 miles from Kerrville. And I was speaking at a Rotary Club about my son's skeet and trap program. And this CEO invited me out, and he turned his company into a laboratory for the responsibility process. And let me show you what that did. From 2001 to 2012, so this is an 11-year period, from the time he took over. As you can see, by 2009, he was really humming. So the net margins at 15%, that industry has 2% margins, 2% margins on turn. By the time he sold it, they had 24.5% margins and sold it for a multiple of 10x. Now, just to give you some context there, most businesses, average business, will sell for 1 times earnings. A really good business will sell for 2 to 3 times earnings. This business sold for 10 times earnings. He's a happy man. This guy's on the call. I won't read all of this to you. Maybe I'll instead ask Ian to say something in just a few minutes. But what this says is that he dramatically changed his life in a year's time. But look at the third column. My family has noticed the difference, saying I'm much nicer to be with. They feel less worried and blamed. When my wife and I were reviewing our finances recently, she insisted membership of the Leadership Gift Program was well worth continuing. I love stories like these. And Ian, look forward to bringing you on in a few minutes. So the conclusion is that the leadership gift works. It works for global corporations. It works for small businesses. It works for individuals too. Why? Well, because it's built around the most important information I discovered and have to share. When I started working on issues of teamwork, collaboration, and partnering, I realized that when entities at any level come together for high performance and they really achieve high-level teamwork, then what's happened is the individuals are willing to go beyond what they've been asked to do. What that means is that a sense of personal responsibility is more profoundly powerful than is role accountability or than is a job assignment. Yet we break most of our work down into role accountability and assignments, and we manage that accountability and authority. And if we do it in a way that drives just the least little bit of fear into the organization, then personal responsibility goes out. And I found that I went in search of what is this feeling of ownership? What is this sense of personal responsibility? Where does it come from? And if it's not there already, how do you get it there? And lo and behold, I found a little research project that started in Austin, Texas in 1987. I was living in Austin at the time. That's where I landed for my doctorate. And I was already done with my doctorate. I was working in PartnerWorks. I was doing all this work with IBM, and I was trying to understand this felt sense of ownership and responsibility, and where does it come from, and how can you get it there? And I found this research program that was teasing out the pattern in our minds by which good, smart, effective, ambitious people choose to either take ownership for our lives and situations and problems, or choose to think that there's nothing we can do to take ownership, that they're just out there and they exist and we can't do anything about them. And so the responsibility process is the results of that research. I joined that team. It was 1991 when I found that. And so I've now been part of that team for 23 years. So if this is your first introduction to the responsibility process, let me just give you a very brief overview of it. And you can find lots of video, and I've got 500 blogs on my blog, lots of other things at my website that you can look at to review, get a good thorough review of the responsibility process. But what it says is that every time something goes wrong, big or small, good or bad, your and my minds hijack our intellect, and it stuffs us into a little logic box, each one of which of these is a coping mechanism that is just a mental state. And the first state that you and I go into when we have a problem is lay blame. So example, I've got an appointment to go to. It's time for me to leave my office and go to the appointment. I reach for that place. I always keep my keys. They're not there. The moment they're not there, the moment I realize that, I've got a problem. I've got an upset. I've got some frustration. And the reason is that I've got this motivation. I'm a force vector in motion. I've got this appointment to go to, and I'm stopped from going to the appointment. And that is the basic anatomy of any frustration, upset, or problem, is that what you have and what you want are two different things. And that causes an internal conflict, like a force field. So this pattern kicks in every time something goes wrong, big or small. So if that's true, then think about this. How many times a day does something go wrong? And how many things have gone wrong already today in your life and work? And oh, by the way, what do we have all of those emergency meetings about at work? So you see, life is full of problems and full of challenges and full of upsets and full of getting blocked and stopped and not being able to have what we want at that moment. And if we aren't aware of it, then what happens is our brilliant, highly educated, professional minds get hijacked into these coping mechanisms where no problem can be solved. And if you're sure that, if you're not sure that this is true for you, I bet you can look around and see that it's true for everybody around you. So the first is lay blame. You've been taught your whole life you shouldn't do it. What you haven't been taught is that it's natural, it's normal. You were hardwired for your mind to go straight to blame as the way to cope with a problem. And by blame, what it means is that you're in the position of effect in the cause-effect equation. The problem is somebody probably near you or in your contact list. And the premise of the logic in this mental state is that for your life to change, somebody else has to change. Somebody else has to do something different or be different in order for you to be happier or better. Psychologists call this being a victim. We call it being powerless, because you're actually assigning the cause for your happiness and your life and your effectiveness and success to somebody else. It's just a mental state, which means you can get stuck in it for a second or a minute or an hour or a lifetime, or you can get off of it. If you get off of it, we land in another mental state called justify. In justify, instead of an individual that's the cause, now it's a set of circumstances beyond your control that's a cause. So it's the weather, it's the economy, it's the political climate, it's the fact that I had 1,000 things on my mind when I came to work and laid my keys down somewhere where I don't recall where I put them. Justify is an insidious coping mechanism. It's very active. You and I are really, 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 really good at giving up on having what we want and simply coping with having less than we want because we think that the economy or something else is in charge. The number one justify that I hear in my corporate work is this: that's just the way it is around here. That's the way it's always been. That's the way it's always going to be. We stick the premise on the end. Therefore, there's nothing you can do about it. So how do you know if you're justifying? Do you have something that you complain about frequently over and over and over and over? Makes good lunch conversation or happy hour conversation or coffee conversation, complaining about the same thing in the world over and over and over again? If you do, you might be stuck in justify around whatever that is. The number one justify that I get, that's just the way it is around here. There's nothing standing at the water cooler. That's the culture around here. That's the way management's always been. That's the way they're always going to be. There's nothing you can do about it. When you hear that, what I know is true is that you would like to be more resourceful, more effective, happier, but you're stopped by what you see as circumstances that are more powerful than you. When our mind gives us that answer, oh, it's the culture around here, there's nothing you can do, then the mind actually decides to live with it rather than try to overcome it. And that's how this responsibility process works. It's these coping mechanisms below the line. We just simply get trapped thinking that we have to put up with having what we don't want in order to have the other things that we do want. Like blame, justify is just a mental state. We can stay there for a second or an hour or a day or a lifetime around whatever the problem is. If we get off of it, we find ourselves beating ourselves up. We find ourselves mad at ourselves. We find ourselves feeling like a dummy adult. I'm so stupid. I'm so, geez, somebody get a gun and shoot me, please. Now, what's happened here is that the very simple sorting routine in our mind, looking for answers to why we have this internal conflict, has now rejected blame. In other words, I'm not willing to blame somebody else. It's rejected justify. I'm not going to say that this set of circumstances beyond control. And so what that little sorting routine does is it flips the external variable to internal. It says, well, we tried external specific, then we tried external diffuse. Let's try internal. So now the cause-effect equation in your mind is not only am I at effect, but I see myself as the cause, right? I did this to myself. I caused this problem. I'm a dummy. I'm adult. I'm so stupid. Will I never learn? Why am I not good enough? Blah, blah, blah. You and I know this self-talk very, very well. It's highly conditioned in our culture. So yes, there's both a natural genetic DNA component here, and then there's the conditioning of the life that you grew up in, the parents, teachers, neighborhood, religion, country culture, etc. And shame is in a different color because it's the first place where our research differs from what society taught you. Society taught you to not blame and not justify. Society wasn't successful in teaching you not to do that because you're hardwired to do it. So society taught you you're wrong. The responsibility process teaches you you're human. You're not wrong, you're human. And why do you blame? You blame because you're human, because you're hardwired to cope with stuff when things go wrong if you don't know how to get the lesson, get the learning, take ownership, and take effective action. But society has taught you that if you're beating yourself up, you are, quote, taking responsibility. Society has rewarded you for beating yourself up. You say, oh, good boy, good girl, you're taking responsibility. The issue is that the logic in shame is still very limited. The premise in shame is that you lack something. You lack what it takes, which means we're more likely to keep the anxiety of having the problem and talk about the problem rather than do something about it. So below the line here, you talk about problems. Above the line, you go after them and you solve them and you own them. And that causes amazing growth and learning, great satisfaction and effectiveness. If you get off the mental state of shame, if you decide, you know what, I do not deserve to beat myself up for making mistakes. All humans know more today than we did yesterday. We always learn more. We can always second guess why we did something yesterday rather than get the lesson and move on. So when we have those thoughts and stop beating ourselves up, the next thing is we look at our situation and we go, oh, I'm trapped. I'm screwed. I have no choice. I'm obligated to do something or be something or have something I don't want. So obligation is the mental state of have to, don't want to. In the mental state of obligation, we feel like we're trapped in a commitment or a promise, a relationship, um, some kind of a life rhythm or pattern that we no longer like. We don't want it, but we think we're trapped and we just have to put up with it. Um, if you're wondering if you have some of this obligation mindset, the kinds of questions I ask are, um, do you have some dumb meeting you have to go to? Stupid, horrible, valueless meeting. The only reason I go is because I have to, right? Do you have some stupid paperwork you have to do? Do you have to go to your kids' events after work? Have to, have to, have to. Do you have to go to your in-laws for holiday? Listen to how much you and I, the great, successful, middle class, bright, ambitious, educated, listen to how we talk about our lives of have to, have to, have to, have to, have to, have to, have to. Um, the exit from obligation is to refuse to feel trapped, interestingly enough. And when we do that, then our mind actually starts to explore internally in our subconscious. We start to explore new answers or new solutions to getting rid of what we have that we don't want and moving towards what we want, knowing that we can have it. So responsibility is just another mental state. So I've talked about blame, justify, shame, and obligation as just mental states with a very limited logic in that state. In responsibility, it's like your logical reasoning pathways just blow wide open, and you have far more access to your mind and your complex problem-solving abilities in the mental state of responsibility. So we call responsibility the place of freedom, choice, and power. And you will hear us talk a great deal in the Leadership Gift program about the fact that we are always free, we are always powerful, we're always at choice, just most of the time we don't realize it. So what I've learned in 23 years of studying this is that you and I are far more powerful and far more effective and far more able than we give ourselves credit for about 98% of the time. And once we start learning that and we come to believe that, then we realize that there is no challenge, no problem, no upset, no anxiety, no frustration we have that we can't blast through when we choose to. So these are all mental states. You're going to learn about all of them a great deal more, the dynamics, the how they work, this is a very precise, actionable mechanism in your mind that's true for you, true for me, true for everybody we know. And that every time something goes wrong, we go to the bottom of this chart. So at the beginning of this webinar, when things went fritzy for a moment and we checked out and restarted, do you think I had thoughts about Bella causing this? Bella's sitting here next to me. Of course. And do you think I got off of it as rapidly as possible? Absolutely, because that's the only effective thing to do. So thank you, Bella. We love you. Everybody in the Leadership Gift Program loves Bella. She keeps it running for us, and she's here in the office so that I can see monitoring what we're doing. So the issue is that below the line, no growth occurs. When we operate from the mental states of blame, justify, shame, and obligation, we talk about the problem. Oh, we talk endlessly about it, but we don't solve it because we haven't truly taken ownership of it. So only above the line does growth happen. And so the game is, what if we can catch ourselves sooner in these mental states and get off of them? You're never going to be cured of them. I've been practicing this 23 years and I'm not cured of it. The game is not to be, oh, I'm always in responsibility. I'm a responsible person. No, you're on the call because you're a responsible person according to society. What the research says is that there is this idea of being a responsible character, being a responsible contributor to society and to your family and to yourself. And then there's what happens in the mind every time something goes wrong. So make sure that we understand those two things. Okay, I'm going to move along here. So when we operate from these mental states, what we learn is that we get to keep whatever problem that is, and we keep it and keep it and keep it and keep it until we decide to truly take ownership of it and break through and find the effective solution for good. So experts since Socrates have said that taking 100% responsibility is the first principle of success in any endeavor. Reams have been written about this being the #1 success principle, but none of these experts have told you how to do it. It's just a moral or ethical imperative, and they have wonderful anecdotal stories of people who turned their lives around. Somebody sent me a quote from a fabulous entrepreneur recently who wrote that the day his life changed was the day he decided to act as if he was 100% responsible for all of it, everything that happened to him, every experience he had, everything. So anecdotal evidence like that abounds. But what we have here of the last 25 years is the first how to approach for understanding, teaching, and taking 100% responsibility. This pattern is so precise in the mind. It's extremely actionable. And that's what's so exciting about it. And it's why I've devoted my life and career to getting this information spread as rapidly as possible and to get as many other people as possible trained up as much and as rapidly as possible. So that's the first model and the most important model. I'm hearing somebody. If you can check who's talking and mute them. Thank you, Bella. So the second model that you want to learn is the prescriptive model. If the responsibility process describes what's happening in all of our minds, we've learned that there are 3 prescriptive keys that you can build your mental muscle in these 3 areas to apply the responsibility process to break through anything. And those keys are intention, awareness, and confront. Intention, meaning that we can direct our desire, our will in any direction we want. But the #1 intention that we practice is the intention to get to the top of the responsibility chart around any problem. Awareness is the #1 approach to leadership development. Since the leadership development industry started in the 30s or 40s, as I look at the entire history of leadership development, the one thing that's consistent in leadership development programs is developing self-awareness, so personal awareness, personal growth. The kind of awareness that we generate here is massive. You will learn so much about yourself in every core module in just the first few weeks, and in 3 months you'll be a totally different person. But the awareness that we focus on is being aware of when you're in blame, so that you can get off of it, being aware of who you are when you're in justify, so you can get off of it, etc. It's a very simple, straightforward awareness. And the third key is confront. The confront key means to develop the courage and the wisdom to face yourself, to realize that you do have far more power and ability than you give yourself credit for 98% of the time. And in order to actually put it to work, you have to be willing to stand in the mirror and face yourself and ask yourself what there is to see or get or learn that you haven't been able to see so far. So our promise, and this is proven by members now worldwide, we've been experimenting with the Leadership Gift Program since 2009, kept it in really an alpha beta state for many years, and then relaunched it in 2012 with the Leadership Gift Program 2013. And so we now have 2 fabulous years of track record, as well as we've got people who we've been working with since 2009. But the promise is that if you combine the responsibility process and your deep understanding of that with these 3 keys, you will experience ever-increasing freedom, power, and choice in your life, in your work, and in your relationships. I mentioned the anatomy of a problem. You're going to come to appreciate what we call the anatomy of a problem. And the anatomy of a problem says that we get blocked from our goals, from what we want all the time. And if we're really willing to examine it, what we'll see is that there's an equal and opposite counter goal or counter force or counter intention going on. And that's what causes internal stress and anxiety. That's why we call this the anatomy of a problem. When you understand this, you understand more about anxiety and stress than most psychologists and psychiatrists understand. The game here is to figure out how to find and remove the counter goal, which frees your intention, your goal to move forward. This is going to be a major principle that you're going to want to study and come to understand. And you only come to understand this through practice and application with me and with others in the community. It makes very little sense just looking at it as a isolated principle here. Of course, the number one attraction to this work worldwide is the difference between accountability and responsibility. We can assign all the accountability we want, but until somebody truly takes ownership, nothing happens. So we learn that, yes, being accountable and making commitments and promises to each other is critically important in work and life. But what's more important is how do we respond when those things go wrong or break down? You're going to come to appreciate a model called the power or control process. The power control process is a different view of the responsibility process. It's like the guy, somebody feeling the elephant's tail and somebody else the ear. Well, the responsibility process is one view of what's going on when we have problems. This is another view. And what this view says is that the nervous Nelly personality, or the control freak, is an example of the red control cycle down on the bottom. This is a system dynamic of two choices that you unconsciously make when you're frustrated or when you have a problem for addressing the problem. And the one on the bottom, it's knee-jerk, it's rapid, it's fast, it makes us feel back in control, but nothing's learned, and you get to keep the problem because you've only solved or addressed your anxiety about the problem, not the problem itself. Above, that cycle is called the power cycle, and this is where true insight, true personal growth, true development of clarity comes from. And when you develop that clarity, that leads you to have greater trust in your ability to function as a human being in whatever area. And that's where true power comes from. So this is going to blow your mind when you start digging into this and see it at work on our calls and in our community. So why does this work when other systems fail? It's because we don't give you a set of process frameworks and tips and tricks for controlling other people. We instead introduce you to your own internal guidance system, the responsibility process, that you then use as a magic magnifying glass for realizing what's always going on in you and in people around you. Your awareness becomes so dramatic. When you have that, then you've got a lever for extremely resourceful action and a constant tuning fork for growth. So if this isn't the definition of being able to lead yourself in order to lead others, I'm not sure what is. Other leadership development systems fall down for not having nearly as powerful core components, and for operating from shoulds and shouldn'ts and rights and wrongs, and everybody's got to have the same training or it doesn't work, and try these tips and tricks, etc. What we do is say, here's how your mind works on upset. Now, let us help you work through that over and over and over and over again until you become a master at responding when things go wrong. You know, the language and psychology of responsibility has always been about what we do when things go wrong. So you remember the pithy quotes. It's not how many times you get knocked down in life, it's how many times you get up. And it's not what happens to you, it's about how you respond to what happens to you. So how can you get involved? Well, for top leaders in corporations, we have large-scale change programs that corporations invest $500,000 a year or more in. For individual CEOs and owners, we have private mentoring that they're going to invest thousands of dollars a month in. But individuals came to me and said, Christopher, how can I get this cool stuff that you've been mastering since 2001? And so in 2009, we started playing around with how could we port all of this amazing content into a very low-cost, very accessible system for individuals, and hence we have the Leadership Gift Program. And memberships start, you get the same stuff that the corporation's getting for $500,000 for under $1,000 a year. Memberships start at even less than that. So my invitation is to join us today. October 24th, I will deliver 8 core modules every other week with Q&A calls in between. So it's 17 weeks, about 60 to 90 minutes each week. All of it's recorded and transcribed if you can't attend live, and nobody attends all of them live. Also, once you're in, we've got all of the recorded modules from 2009, 2013, 2014 that you have access to immediately. We have 4 live monthly touch points where we apply and practice and answer all of your questions. There's a beautiful growing worldwide community of people who are supporting each other, peer mentoring, mentoring newcomers. There are people waiting for you to join and adopt them as your mentor. And our community is starting to work together, initiate projects, and hire each other. Imagine being able to work with someone that has this level of mastery. We have an accreditation program, and I mentioned the community being such a force for positive change. Our accreditation program is designed on demonstration. It's got a number of levels. The practitioner level is easy enough to get soon after you complete the core modules. The coach level is going to take quite a bit of work over a year or two time. And mentor and master are for people who adopt this as a core principle in their life and are going to practice it anyway, and the accreditation will come along as a byproduct of living. So here's the calendar for our 17 Fridays. This is all online, and I'll point you to where you can find this. So I mentioned our community. We've got 2 brilliant online forums, very active. We've got one forum for all members, and then we've got another forum for people who are in the accreditation program. And these are people are posting wins and questions and acknowledgments and issues all day long from around the world. So let me see, who's up? Gosh, you've got Ian, Joe, Mike, and Mike. Let's start with Ian. And no women. We've got lots of women in the program. I just want you to know that. So Ian, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Great.
Hey, Christopher.
Hey, can you turn on your webcam? Are you able to turn on your cam? If you can, do so. If not,
there it goes.
Great. So I'd love for you to, so Ian is in Edinburgh, Scotland, and he's a software manager, been part of the program now for 2 years. And I'd love for you to just share your story, or if you've seen questions that are being asked, respond to them. But love to hear what your experience has been, Ian.
Okay, well, probably the biggest thing, a couple of months ago, I had a very unusual experience. I realized I was feeling happy. I was looking around at things and going, hey, yeah, I wanted that. I like that. I'm living in the right place. My job's going the right way. I looked at the cats and thinking, oh, yeah, we've got lovely cats. Looked at my kids, lovely kids. That's a very unusual experience. Haven't had that for years.
Wow.
2 years ago, as Christopher said in that panel, I was feeling stuck. My life was going the wrong way. My career was going the wrong way. I was just blaming everything and everyone and justifying all over the place. But it took a while to get going with this. First understanding the material intellectually, and then on the calls following up, internalizing it and working with it. But it's allowed me to turn my life around, take charge of my life, and do what I feel I'm wanting.
Fabulous. And you and your wife still think it's a good investment every month for you to
Absolutely.
continue your membership?
Absolutely.
That's fabulous.
It's close to the pain point, but it's also the rewards. The rewards are worth it.
Fabulous. Thank you, Ian. If folks have questions for you, can they send them to me and I'll pass them on, and we'll put up
Yeah,
a Q&A FAQ for people to read later.
yes, and if we get the chance, Bella will pass them to me, and I can pass responses back.
Excellent. Thank you. How about Joe? Joe, are you there? Joe Astolfi? Well,
Christopher,
Joe
can you hear
comes
me?
on. Yeah, here you are.
Hi, how are you today?
Fabulous. How are you, Joe? You have a webcam
Fan-
today?
Fantastic. I do not. I'm in that slow
Okay,
connection place
great.
I'm
Well,
usually in. So.
we just have a few minutes. What would you most want someone thinking about whether or not they should take the plunge and join us? What would you most want them to think about?
Um, so the thing I would say is that after being in this program, I'm happier and less stressed than I ever have been. And I would say that I have more things on my plate than I have ever had before. Um, but I'm hyper aware when I'm not in full responsibility, and I know I have the power to create the reality I want in every aspect of my life. And by raising my responsibility and raising my game, it helps those around me do the same by demonstration. And I've had the great benefit of building hyper-performing teams just by being aware of the responsibility process.
Wow. Thank you, Joe. Same question. Would you be willing to help me answer folks' questions if they send them in? So
Absolutely.
Joe's an agile coach, software development, product development coach in Columbus, Ohio area. Yeah. So fabulous. While we get maybe Mike Edwards on, let me tell you that we're now open to select new members, and you can read so much detail at christopheravery.com/skyrocket. If you think that my explanation today has been the least bit sketchy, I've got it all written down for you. And how to get involved, read about it in detail, select your membership plan. I'll run through the membership plans here in a minute, but it's all explained on this page. Enter your payment information and then stay with your browser. Don't say, wow, that was cool, and get up and go have dinner. Your browser will reload the Leadership Gift Program registration page so that you can put in your username and password and be ready to skyrocket like my friend Mike Edwards from Kitchener, Ontario. Hi, Mike.
Hi, Christopher.
What would you most like people to be thinking about at this time if they're wondering if this is for them?
There's a lot of things that I could share. I could talk about how the program has affected my life, my work, my relationship. But I think the important one that I really want to share with everybody is when I first joined us, I was a busy independent coach. Always had the ability to justify why I didn't have time to eat right or exercise or all those kinds of things. And over the last couple months, I've really made a transformation in that way, and truly have moved above the line. And now I'm in this place where, after 30 years, I'm running again. I'm losing weight. I'm being taken off of medications for blood pressure. So this is about more than just your professional life. This is about your whole integrated life. And just like Joe said, you become hyper aware of when you're falling below the line so that you can respond and get yourself back to a better place. Truly transformative.
Wow. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. And
You're
also,
welcome.
would you help us answer questions if people want to point them out?
Absolutely.
Cool. Let's make room for Mike Kaufman. While Mike Kaufman comes on, I want you to know that there is a 90-day unconditional money-back guarantee. This is weird approach to leadership development. Nobody's done anything like this kind of model available worldwide on calls and the internet like this. So I'm willing to take all the risk in you trying it for 90 days and you deciding whether or not it's worth it. So Mike Kaufman, Mike is also part of our Canadian contingent, also in Ontario, Canada. And briefly, Mike, what would you ask people to be thinking about, or what from your own experience would you like to let them know?
I would say if you're feeling just stuck and not sure how to deal with all the different problems and issues that come up, and this goes, from what Ian and Joe and Mike have already said, it's not just at work, it's also at personal, it's also at home, it's with your family, it's with anything. If you find yourself constantly frustrated, this is a really good program to help open your eyes and really see what is, and to stop the evaluation and to stop the justify and the blame, and really take control of your life and learn how to be happy in so many different ways.
So how does this personal development and personal growth and personal breakthrough, how does that relate to being a leader?
Oh, because if if you yourself are at choice, and you can recognize where you are on the line, and you can make that conscious choice to move above the line, it translates into everything that you do. It translates into how you approach, in my case, my wife, and even my kids. It changes how you approach. I'm a manager as well, so my staff. It changes how I approach my boss and my boss's bosses, and it just completely gives you a new awareness of how to approach any situation.
Yeah, thank you. So great author Max DePriest said the number one job of a leader is to define reality. Well, if you're defining reality through the lens of blame, that's very different than defining reality through the lens of ownership. Thank you so much,
Absolutely.
Mike. I'm gonna get us out of here and see what questions others have. Thank you for joining us, and I know already that you're willing to help answer questions. So
Absolutely.
So, folks, first of all, I want you to think about these busy people that seem to find time to come onto these calls and support you. And it's because part of teaching this is learning it. So those guys are here not just for you, but for their own benefit as well, to help become even better at this. So here's a comparison for you. You spend $1,000 for a 2-day workshop. You got tons of cost in travel time and delivery time for the content. You can compare that to having a small dose drip system that goes on and on and on and on every week, every month. It's available to you with at least 4 live touch points and more all the time, because accredited practitioners and coaches are offering calls now. So it drives the cost way down. But really, do we want to focus on cost or value? I already know that your life can be very different in a few months. And as one of our members said to me yesterday, he said, what I would tell people is that you can have a year of world-class leadership development for the price of an old, beat-up used car. So I recommend you focus on value. Yes, the cost is important. So we have a membership plan for every budget. When you get to the Skyrocket page at christopheravery.com/skyrocket, you'll see there's a bronze plan, a silver plan, a gold plan, a platinum plan. I will save some time for you. 98% of people who join get the gold plan. If you want the bronze plan, all you get access to here is the content library. It's the lowest budget, lowest cost plan. No live calls, but we've got a huge amount of material in the library, and we're always adding new material. You pay one time to get access to all of that material, and then as long as you want to stay in the program, you pay a monthly recurring charge. No obligation. You're not signed up for multiple months in the future. Well, it is a subscription. It will rebill, but you're not obligated. You quit at any time. You just call us and say we're done getting value. The silver plan adds access to the live core modules and live Q&A. And the silver plan is $547, normally $897, and then $67 a month. And then the gold plan, which is the most popular, it adds a private orientation call with me where I learn about you, your vision for yourself, how to support you going forward in the program. We do an assessment of various areas of your life. And then you participate in live application mastery, and only gold and platinum get application mastery. And this is where we actually break through problems together. Gold members will tell you application mastery is where it's at. Yeah, the 8 core modules are so that you have the basic understanding of these principles, these models that I introduced you to. But finishing the 8 core modules is the beginning of the program. It's the beginning of practice. It's not the end of the program. And application mastery is where you'll make all the breakthroughs. So that's why gold is so neat. We normally charge $997 registration. This year we're able to charge $597, and then $97 a month for as long as you're getting value and want to stay in the program. For a few folks who are somewhere budget-wise in between the individual and the business owner entrepreneur, we have a platinum program. In the platinum program, you get a one-on-one call with me every month. And the platinum program is $1,000 and $997 and $497 per month, and there's only 10 of them available. So don't join if you're looking for persuasion techniques, influence tricks, ways to get others to take ownership and do what you want them to do. Well, we will show you how to get others to take ownership, but ways to control or manipulate or manage others. Do join if you are ready to skyrocket your performance while reducing stress, costs, and execution times. At christopheravery.com/skyrocket. Jot this down if you're not going there now. And when you join, we have a couple of bonus options. One option would be the 12 MP3 set, How to Teach Responsibility to Anybody. I see somebody ask me, I think it was Marcus, ask me, how does the Leadership Gift Program relate to your audio program, How to Teach Responsibility to Anyone? It's the same content. The audio program was simply a 2-day event that we recorded all of it and put it here, and it's very powerful for many people. The Leadership Gift Program is designed for low dosage, free touch points, access to me live, access to an entire community live over time to change you and to change your team and your life and to change the world as a community. So thank you for asking that question. And if you join us, we'll give you the How to Teach Responsibility to Anyone MP3 set if you'd like that bonus. Our other bonus is a 58-minute long video, a $200 value that you can use for allowing me to introduce the responsibility process and the keys to responsibility to your team, family, other people. And for joining us today, I thank you and want to offer you a fun bonus. This is a beautiful rendition of the responsibility process poster. I call it X marks the spot. And all you have to do to get it is go to christopheravery.com/bonus, and it'll immediately download. It's a PDF at that address that downloads right away. So thank you very much. I realize that we've gone a little over an hour. And I'm happy to take your questions for those of you who are still here and interested in hanging on. So you have a little hand that you can raise, and you and I can talk if you would like. Or you can ask any of the members who are on a question. Nobody's asking a question. So Joe or Mike or Ian, what might people be asking? You guys are all unmuted.
Some people.
There we go.
Thanks.
Yeah, Christopher, it's Mike.
Yeah.
I suspect some people might be wondering if this can work for them and work in their place of employment.
Oh, well, what would you say about that?
I'd say it already does. The question is, how is it working?
I love that answer. Yeah, this is a common conversation we have. People say, Christopher, the responsibility process looks really neat and everything, but do you think it'll work in my business, in my culture, in my market, in my country? And my answer is it's already at work, right? How's it working? In other words, every culture has different coping mechanisms that they're drawn to, and every human is more drawn to one of these coping mechanisms than others. So obviously, while I fall to the bottom of that chart every time something goes wrong, I get to the top very rapidly. You may be working in a culture where you spend weeks and months and years in blame and justify around the big business issues or the problems with technology or tooling or people or anything, rather than getting to the top of the chart. Is that what you meant, Mike?
Yes, that's exactly it.
Yeah. So do you think it'll work? Yeah, it's already at work. How's it working? Nice. What other questions might people be asking if they're not raising their hands here for me?
I would think, Christopher, they might ask, is it worth it, right? Because it's an investment of time and money.
Right. So I may be the wrong one to answer that question because I have probably spent $50,000 to $100,000 to acquire the level of practice and mastery that I have. So to me, 20 times what we're charging is worth it. What do you think?
What do I think?
Yeah.
Well, I would say that I don't know that I could put a price on the amount of freedom and power and happiness that I feel on a day-to-day basis since I've been practicing this material and working with others like yourself and the guys on the phone and the other members who aren't here on the phone today. It's priceless to me, and it actually allows me to create the time and space and money to continue to invest in it.
Absolutely. If we can't help you in 3 months find the time and money that you think that that the investment has to come before the returns, and we're going to help you change that pretty quickly. I'll also say, and I think you know this, Joe, that more than half of the people who've ever joined the Leadership Gift Program are still subscribers, and many of them say it's the most important $97 they spend every month.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Ian, looks like...
I would add to that.
Excuse me, Ian?
I would add to that. I can only say it's worth it for me.
There you
But
go.
the best way of finding out is to try it out and see and give it time. It took me 9 months to a year before I really started feeling breakthroughs. It took me the first 3 months was learning the material intellectually, then starting to apply it and clearing things out. Yeah, it takes time, but it's worth it for me.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you understand iterative and an evolutionary development or incremental development, then you understand when you start really applying this stuff, we start by picking off small issues and small upsets and small frustrations, and then what's left are larger ones, and those are a little more challenging to confront. So we start learning how to pick off some of those, and then we get some of the really big ones. And I think that's the kind of time frame that you're talking about here, Ian, and why the community and why the ongoing calls are so valuable.
And then the chance of trying to teach it. It's a great way of learning as well.
Yes, so that's one of the progressions, is getting into teaching others. So thank you. So do you have a description of the program to be given to manager for getting sponsorships? Marcus, thank you for that. Great question. I'll be writing you about that. So Here's my recommendation. My recommendation is if a manager asks me, should I pay for this? I would say you would be a fool not to pay for it for everybody on your staff that wants it. It is priced as an individual consumer thing. If this were a corporate program, you'd be paying about 10 times the investment per person, maybe 20 times the investment per person. So if you have the opportunity to pay a consumer level purchase for a year's worth of leadership development for someone that's got weekly touch points and constant practice and application to your life, you'd be a fool not to pay it. Now, here's what I say to you, Marcus. If they say, it seems weird, we don't do that kind of thing, I don't know if we have the budget, what I say to you is, who do you want to feel a sense of ownership for your mastery? Do you want to owe it to your employer, or do you want to own it yourself? So that's my answer. I'll give you everything I can to help you sell it to management, but if they don't buy it, I'd say, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And besides, if you pay it for yourself, you get to own the results instead of owing it to them for being your sponsor. Other questions? All right.
I was going to think of one.
Go ahead, Mike.
Some people might be thinking, how can you, one person, be available to all these hundreds of members on the program? And I was going to answer the question, and the answer that I'm thinking of is a point that I wanted to make to all the people on the audience, which is there's a tremendous community out there that we all help each other out, right? And that, I think, is one thing that is a significant benefit to the overall program.
Yeah, thanks a lot. My commitment to this program is greater than almost anything else that I do. Yes, we run a corporate change business and a training business, and yes, I have a speaking business, and I'm traveling constantly, and I seem to find a way to host 4 calls a month where I'm completely available to you and all of the members. Every now and then, something comes up and I'll ask somebody to substitute for me. But that's not frequently, and it seems that people like hearing from others who have maybe less experience than I do mastering or teaching this. But
and have different perspectives.
Yeah, and different perspectives as well. Thank you, Ian. But what I will say is I don't think any member will doubt my commitment to this community, because we are changing the world. We are touching every point in the world. And the more this community grows, the more we will get the responsibility process around the world. And that's the most important thing that I have to do. So that's my answer to...
First time I remember Christopher taking a holiday was just a month or so ago in the 2 years I've been here.
I disappeared for 16 days and everybody survived. And that's because it doesn't depend on me.
But he's always been available for me.
Yeah. Thank you, Ian. Very cool. Anybody else have anything at all? All right.
Join now.
Join now. Thanks, Mike. And let me take the risk. All right. Thank you so much for being here today. I appreciate you checking this out. I appreciate you consider joining us. I know if it's not a simple, easy decision that you'll be thinking and wrestling about it, I'll be back in touch with as many answers to questions that you send to me as I can. And obviously, you've probably already checked out the Skyrocket page and see all the information there. So I look forward to starting with you on October 24th in Core Module 1. Take care. Bye.